Picture this. A woman in her mid-90s, no cane, no walker, no one holding her arm, just her, a reusable grocery bag, and a quiet confidence that makes you stop and stare. She parks her own car, lugs her own bags, and waves cheerfully at the young cashier who calls her ma'am. She smiles at that. She's earned every single year on her face. That woman is Dorothy. She is 94 years old. She lives alone in the same house she's owned since 1978. She tends a vegetable garden, video calls her grandchildren without any help from tech support, and reads 2 books a month. Her physician, who is 49, has a slightly higher resting heart rate than she does. Now, here's the part that should make your jaw drop. 9 years ago, Dorothy could barely make it from her bedroom to her kitchen without stopping to rest. She was managing 11 prescription medications, had been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and had quietly accepted that this, pain, fatigue, isolation, was just what getting old looked like. She was wrong, and so are most of us. What changed everything wasn't a miracle supplement, a trendy diet, or an expensive wellness program. It was 5 remarkably simple morning habits that Dorothy began weaving into her daily routine. Habits rooted in real science, practiced quietly by long-lived people around the world, and completely free to start today. If you're a woman over 60 watching this, I want you to lean in a little closer, because what Dorothy discovered might be the most important thing you watch all year. Dorothy's story, from surviving to thriving. Dorothy spent 33 years as a school librarian in Ohio. She loved her work, her community, and above all, her husband of 51 years, Walter. When Walter passed away from a stroke at 80, something in Dorothy simply shut down. Grief is its own kind of illness. Dorothy stopped cooking real meals. She stopped walking in the evenings. She stopped calling friends. The weight crept on, nearly 35 pounds over 2 years. Her blood sugar climbed. Her knees ached. Her sleep, once deep and restorative, became fragmented and shallow. By 85, she had a rollator in the hallway and a pill organizer the size of a small toolbox on the counter. The wake-up call, she tells anyone who will listen, was completely undignified. "I couldn't get the lid off a jar of spaghetti sauce," she says. "I sat down on the kitchen floor, not because I fell, but because I was so frustrated I didn't know what else to do. And I thought, is this it? Is this the rest of my life?" It was not. That night, Dorothy made a decision. She started researching, not pill bottles and diagnoses, but people, specifically the oldest, healthiest, most independent people on Earth. What did they actually do each morning? What did their days look like? What were their rituals? What she found surprised her, and then it changed her. Today, Dorothy's A1C is 5.8. She takes 4 medications instead of 11. She has lost all the weight she gained during those grief years. Her arthritis pain, once a constant companion, has faded dramatically. She sleeps 7 hours straight without a single sleep aid, and she feels, in her own words, more alive at 94 than I did at 84. Here are the 5 morning habits that got her there. Morning habit number 1. The sunrise window ritual. Every morning before she touches her phone or turns on the television, Dorothy does something almost absurdly simple. She pulls her favorite chair close to her east-facing window, sits down with a large glass of room-temperature water, and spends 15 minutes just being there. No screens, no noise, just light and stillness. It sounds like nothing. The science says otherwise. When natural morning light reaches your eyes, it activates a tiny region in your brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. Think of this as your body's internal timekeeper. It coordinates your cortisol rhythm, your melatonin suppression, your body temperature, and your digestion. When it's working properly, you feel awake during the day and genuinely sleepy at night. As we age, this internal clock drifts. It's one of the main reasons so many women over 60 struggles with broken sleep, early morning waking, afternoon exhaustion, and that relentless feeling of being off. Dorothy used to wake up 3 or 4 times a night. She'd lie there watching the ceiling, too tired to get up, too awake to sleep. Within 5 weeks of her sunrise ritual, she was sleeping through the night. Her doctor, who had been prescribing a sleep aid for 3 years, took her off it completely. Practical tips. Aim to do this within 30 to 60 minutes of waking up. If you can safely go outdoors, even a covered porch works beautifully. If outdoor access is limited, open a window or invest in a 10,000 lux light therapy lamp, widely available online for under $40. Even on overcast days, natural light is vastly more powerful than any indoor bulb. Dorothy pairs this with drinking her first 16 ounces of water, which leads us perfectly into habit number 3. But first, the one that Dorothy says changed her mind as much as her body. Morning habit number 2. Gratitude with a memory twist. After her window ritual, Dorothy opens a small spiral notebook, she's on her 4th one now, and writes 3 things she's grateful for. You've heard of gratitude journaling. This is different, and that difference is everything. Most people write things like, "I'm grateful for my family," or "I'm thankful for my health." Dorothy learned to go deeper. For each gratitude, she writes a specific sensory memory. She doesn't just write that she's grateful for her daughter, she writes about the exact afternoon her daughter drove 4 hours in a snowstorm just to sit with her when she was sick, the smell of her coat when she came through the door, the sound of the kettle, the warmth of her hand. This isn't sentimentality for its own sake. Neuroscience research consistently shows that when we vividly recall positive experiences with sensory detail, smell, sound, texture, temperature, we strengthen existing neural pathways and create new ones. For older adults, this kind of active memory recall is one of the most accessible and effective tools for maintaining cognitive sharpness. Dorothy noticed something else, too. The more she practiced noticing and savoring small moments in the morning, the more her brain began doing it automatically throughout the day. A neighbor's laugh, the smell of fresh rain, a perfect cup of tea. Moments that used to pass unregistered began landing. "I used to feel invisible," she says, "like the world had moved on and forgotten I was still in it. The gratitude practice didn't solve that overnight, but slowly I started feeling like my memories, my whole life, actually mattered, that I had something worth carrying forward." Her memory also improved in practical ways. She began remembering names again, recalling where she'd set her keys, following the thread of conversations more easily. Her doctor noted measurable improvements in her cognitive assessments over a 2-year period. If writing is difficult due to arthritis or vision, speak your gratitudes aloud. Use a voice recorder on your phone. The format is less important than the habit itself. Morning habit number 3. Hydration before everything else. Here's a question. What is the very first thing you put in your body every morning? For most of us, it's coffee, or perhaps a cup of tea, maybe a glass of orange juice. And according to Dorothy's research into centenarian communities worldwide, this single habit is quietly causing far more harm than most people realize. After 7 or 8 hours of sleep, your body is measurably dehydrated. Your blood is thicker and moves more slowly through your vessels. Your joints, which are cushioned by fluid-rich cartilage, are at their stiffest. Your brain, which is approximately 75% water, is literally operating with less volume than it had when you went to bed. And when you immediately introduce caffeine into this depleted system, your adrenal glands respond by spiking cortisol, which triggers inflammation throughout the body. Dorothy now begins every morning with 16 ounces of warm water, a small pinch of pink Himalayan salt, and a squeeze of fresh lemon juice. She prepares this the evening before in a glass pitcher and leaves it on the counter so it reaches room temperature by morning. She drinks it completely before coffee, before breakfast, before anything else. The results were noticeable within 2 weeks. Her morning joint stiffness, the slow, painful shuffle from bed to bathroom that used to take 10 minutes, began to ease. Within a month, she was moving normally within minutes of rising. Her arthritis pain, while not eliminated, decreased significantly enough that her doctor was able to reduce her anti-inflammatory dosage. The warm water encourages circulation. The salt provides electrolytes that aging kidneys often struggle to retain. The lemon supports digestion and delivers a small but meaningful dose of vitamin C, which supports both immune function and collagen production. A word on bathroom concerns. Many older women worry that drinking more water means more trips to the bathroom. Dorothy had the same concern, but she found the opposite. When the body is consistently well hydrated, it actually becomes more efficient at absorbing and using water rather than flushing it quickly. The key is the temperature. Warm or room temperature absorbs faster than cold, and the timing. Waiting 30 minutes before coffee allows full absorption before the mild diuretic effect of caffeine kicks in. If you take morning medications, speak to your doctor. Most can be taken with this hydration routine, but it's always worth checking. Morning habit number 4, the 2-minute body awakening before your feet touch the floor. This is Dorothy's favorite habit to share because she says it is the one that most directly saved her life, not metaphorically, literally. Before she gets out of bed, before she even swings her legs to the side, Dorothy spends about 10 minutes doing a slow, gentle sequence of movements while still lying down. She learned this from studying the work of physical therapists who specialize in fall prevention for older adults. Her sequence looks like this: ankle circles, 10 slow rotations in each direction for each foot. This immediately begins drawing blood toward the extremities and wakes up the sensory receptors that govern balance. Knee to chest pulls, gently bringing each knee toward the chest and holding for 15 seconds. This targets the hip flexor muscles, which shorten and tighten during sleep and are a leading contributor to poor balance and lower back pain. Shoulder rolls, 10 forward, 10 backward, while still lying flat. This counters the forward head posture that develops over decades of reading, cooking, and looking down. Gentle neck turns, slowly looking left and right, then tilting the chin gently up and down. No forcing, no rushing. Wake-up wiggles, rapidly but gently wiggling fingers, hands, toes, and feet for 30 seconds. Dorothy calls this getting the motor running. The biology behind this is worth understanding. While you sleep, the synovial fluid that cushions your joints becomes thicker and less fluid. Your balance receptors, the proprioceptors in your ankles, knees, and hips, are essentially offline. When you stand up abruptly from a cold start, you are asking a system that hasn't fully warmed up to perform at full capacity. This is exactly when falls happen. Dorothy experienced a dramatic real-world test of this habit 8 months ago. Leaving the grocery store on a rainy afternoon, she stepped onto wet pavement and her foot slipped. Instead of going down hard, her body did something remarkable. It self-corrected. Her hip flexibility, her ankle strength, and her balance reflexes, all improved over months of this morning routine, kicked in automatically. She caught herself. She stood there for a moment thinking, that should have been a fall, and I knew exactly why it wasn't. She says, and I knew exactly why it wasn't. Adaptations for different abilities. If hip pain prevents knee to chest movements, try gentle leg slides along the mattress instead. If shoulder mobility is limited, work within whatever range feels comfortable. The goal is not perfection, it's preparation. Morning habit number 5, the daily purpose intention. This final habit is the one that Dorothy believes reaches deepest, and it's the one that scientists studying longevity are most excited about. Every morning, after her other 4 rituals are complete, Dorothy opens her notebook to a fresh line and writes down one specific way she will contribute to another person's life that day. Not this week, not eventually, that very day. It might be, I will call Margaret and actually ask about her hip surgery, or I will write a real letter with a stamp to my granddaughter, or simply, I will make real eye contact and say something kind to every person I encounter at the pharmacy. It doesn't matter how large or small the gesture is. What matters is that it is intentional, specific, and directed outward. Research from Rush University has found that individuals with a strong sense of daily purpose show significantly less cognitive decline over time and are substantially less likely to develop Alzheimer's disease. The Blue Zones research, studying populations with the highest concentrations of people over 100, consistently identifies a daily sense of purpose and community contribution as one of the most powerful predictors of longevity. In Okinawa, this is called ikigai. The Sardinians have their own version. So do the Seventh-day Adventists of Loma Linda, California, who regularly outlive their neighbors by nearly a decade. The mechanism is physiological, not just psychological. Having daily purpose reduces inflammatory markers in the blood, strengthens immune response, regulates cortisol, and improves sleep architecture. Purpose is not a soft concept, it is a biological force. Dorothy's ripple effect from this habit has been extraordinary. What began as a single phone call to a neighbor became, over 2 years, a quietly thriving network of connection. She organized a small community seed-sharing group for her neighborhood garden. She began mentoring a newly retired schoolteacher online who was struggling with the loss of structure. She checks on 88-year-old man 3 doors down who lost his wife and who, she suspects, would go entire weeks without a real conversation. "I spent years feeling like I had nothing left to give," Dorothy says. "Once I started looking for ways to give, I couldn't stop finding them, and the more I gave, the better I felt. There's no supplement on earth that works like that." For those with limited mobility or social access, this habit adapts beautifully to the digital world. A thoughtful comment on a friend's social media post, an encouraging email to a former colleague, participating in an online volunteer program, calling a grandchild just to listen. Purpose does not require a car or a healthy pair of knees. It requires only intention. The before and after that amazes her own doctor. Let's put Dorothy's transformation in concrete terms because the numbers tell a story words can't fully capture. At 85, 11 daily medications, A1C of 8.2, well into diabetic range, 35 pounds overweight, rollator walker required for daily movement, 3 to 4 nightly awakenings dependent on sleep medication, chronic joint pain rated 7 to 8 out of 10. At 94, 4 medications, A1C of 5.8, fully within normal range, back to her pre-grief weight without dieting, no mobility aids, drives herself to volunteer work 3 times weekly, sleeping 7 to 8 hours without any sleep medication, joint pain rated 2 to 3 out of 10 on most days. Her physician recently told her she has the cardiovascular health of someone 20 years younger and the cognitive agility of someone younger still. He has since referred 3 of his other senior patients to Dorothy, not for medical advice, but simply to talk to her about her morning routine. Your turn. Start with just 1. Dorothy is emphatic about this. She did not overhaul everything at once. She started with the window ritual because it required nothing but a chair and a willingness to sit still. She added the hydration habit 2 weeks later. The gratitude journal came a month after that. The bedtime movement sequence and the purpose intention followed gradually. Small shifts, practiced consistently, compound. That is the entire secret. There is no other secret. So here is my challenge to you. Pick one of these 5 habits, just one, and commit to trying it every morning for the next 7 days. Don't change anything else, just try one thing. If you struggle with sleep, start with the sunrise window ritual. If joint pain or stiffness is your biggest challenge, try the hydration routine or the bedtime movement sequence. If you're feeling isolated or purposeless, begin with the gratitude memory exercise or the daily contribution intention. Then come back and tell us what you noticed. Did your energy shift? Did you sleep differently? Did something soften or sharpen, or simply feel a little more like you? Dorothy would also love to know, what is your biggest health or wellness challenge right now? Drop it in the comments below. You might just find that someone else is carrying the same thing, and that connection alone can be its own kind of morning habit. If this story sparked something in you, a flicker of hope, a sense that it is not too late, a reminder that your body is more resilient than you've been led to believe, please share this video with someone who needs to hear it: a sister, a neighbor, a friend who's been struggling quietly. Thank you for watching until the end. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like it and subscribe to my channel. Stay healthy and peaceful. See you in the next video.